What is this? A group of crucible knights with an helm? Van Helm's face is white. Just talked to that little cipher, did you? One of my novitiates told me he'd seen someone in the records room. He takes a slow step toward you, extending his hand. Give me the affidavit. I've done nothing to you. His other hand comes to rest next to his sword. Well, maybe I should, because Aloth, I think Aloth encourages me to not reveal the forgery. Aloth disagrees. Aloth implies he disagrees with someone has to answer for what their past lives did. Maybe I'll go with Aloth's wishes or desires. Arismital asks, what does this mean to you? Vanhelm says, are you serious? This is my career. I've labored years for it, and it all hangs on some coincidence on some coincidence of a past life. Any Dirwooden, rich or poor, can aspire to a position in the Crucible Knights. Anyone can rise to the rank of High Justice, except for those of us born with the wrong soul. Tell me how that's reasonable. Okay, let's be rational here. We did take a job from Osric. However, the job that Osric wants us to do is to get him his armor back. He said that ruining Vanhelm's career is basically just a bonus. So it's not my main mission. There is no reason for me to show this affidavit to Commander Cleaver. And besides this, I'm sure this will also please Aloth. Arismital gives Vanhelm the affidavit. You're right. Take it. Vanhelm grabs it from you with a trembling hand. You have no idea what this means to me. He swallows. Thank you for seeing reason. Arismital says, now do the same for Osric. Return his family breastplate. Vanhelm hesitates, clutching the affidavit. I'm certainly grateful to you, but Osric earned his punishment and then sent you to take his anger out on me. Why should I do anything for him? Arismital asks, are you so stuck in the past that you need to wear his armor? Yeah, I guess this is the best dialogue option. It resonates with what Vanhelm said about being born in the wrong soul. Because the past lives have nothing to do with the current reincarnation, right? And it's all about the past. Arismital asks, are you so stuck in the past that you need to wear his armor. Penhelm looks down at the breastplate. I hadn't thought of it that way. He pulls it off and hands it to you. I hope this gives him some peace and perhaps a reason to move on. Penhelm gives you a nod and leaves. Return to Osric with the breastplate. All right. Animansa says, "Welcome to the finest Animansis center in the Deerwood." Feel free to look around. You might be able to see a demonstration. One day, more people will see the value in what we do here. It's a shame that the Deerwood is ruled by so much fear and superstition. The Animansa bobs his head in greeting. Speak with Head Warden Ethelmoer if you wish to make an appointment with one of our Animansas. Animancy means progress and experimentation. Unfortunately, that makes some people uncomfortable. The Animansa straightens his robes and gives you a nod. We see quite a few Breckenberry locals for treatment. It helps fund our research. The Animancy hearing should be over any day now. Our future is in the hands of the Duke. Sanitarium. Nadine.
How do you do?
A woman stands in the shade of the garden, muttering to herself. She's fixated on the pages of a large and well-worn tome, seemingly oblivious to the blooming flowers and the cool, fragrant breeze. She only looks up when your shadow crosses her page. "Do you mind? I'm rather busy." Arismittal asks, "What are you so busy with?" Nadine snaps her book shut. "I'm studying soul attachment. We all know that souls move into people at birth and out of them at death, but we still have a lot of questions about what makes them stick, so to speak." Arismittal asks, "What do you mean about making them stick?" Nadine brushes a stray lock from her forehead. Souls power bodies and give their tissues life, but only when they are firmly attached. It's separation that leads to a whole spate of soul-related ailments. including the Hollowborn. But if we understood how to reattach souls, we could end White One's legacy, maybe even conquer death. Oh, too ambitious there? Unless, of course, you are a favorite of Voidica, like Thaos Ix Arcanon. Nadine scratches behind her ear. That's the theory anyway. Unfortunately, I don't have all the research I need to put it into practice. Arismital asks, what exactly do you need? Nadine says, there's a manuscript called The Theorems of Pangram. It contains research from Pangram's experiments on detached souls. The Hall of Revealed Mysteries is rumored to have a copy in the Elder Archives. Okay, Lady Webb mentioned these Theorems of Pangram before. Kana says, Pangram's work is considered to be one of the more daring animancy texts, not something generally circulated among novices, nor easy to get a hold of. I wonder if we might have a peek at it. Nadine says, the theorems could advance my research by leaps and bounds, but Grimda, the High Archivist, worships Weil, which means she has some paradoxical views on sharing and restricting knowledge, and since she's not exactly a proponent of animancy, she tends to restrict the kinds of information that would be useful to me. Arismital says, I'm sorry to hear that. Nadine sighs, look at me spilling my troubles, it's kind of you to listen, but I should really get back to my work. Arismital says, Nadine says, anything else? She looks eager to return to her studies. Arismital says, I have some questions about the theorems of Pangram. Nadine says, such as? Arismital says, tell me about the theorems of Pangram. Nadine says, Pangram was an animancer working in the Deerwood. He had some interesting theories about essence and some rather innovative technique for studying it. He was able to reattach souls to bodies after death, although he was unable to prevent his patients from degenerating. He was controversial to say the least, but many are starting to realize that he was merely ahead of his time. Arismital asks, what do you mean by degenerating? Nadine twists her hands together. Well, there seems to be a tiny problem with reattaching souls after death. The bodies will reanimate and may even retain memories and personality, but they develop a hunger for flesh, living, soul-infused flesh. Without it, they start to devolve, decaying mentally and physically. If the process goes too far, which eventually does, they become mindless corpses, attacking anything that moves. We haven't figured out a way to avoid that. Aloth says, and you wonder why Grimda won't share this research with you. Arismital says, that sounds like necromancy. Nadine says, nonsense. Necromancy is magic. This is sciencio. She emphasizes the last word. Arismital asks, why doesn't Grimda lend you the books you need? Nadine says, the Hall of the Revealed Mysteries is rather protective of its books, especially the rarer ones, and Grimda in particular. She hates animancy, thinks it's dangerous. I don't see how you can run the greatest library in the Deerwood and be so adverse to the spread of knowledge and research. but I've never understood these religious types. Aloth scowls at the Animancer. Some knowledge is best kept under lock and key. Arismital says, I like to know more about the whole of revealed mysteries. Nadine says, you'll find it in the Copper Lane district. It's dedicated to the God of Secrets and Revelations. Most importantly, it houses the largest and most expansive library in the Deerwood. Kana says, well, that settles it. We simply must go see it, right? Arismital asks, what are the Elder Archives? Nadine says, the Elder Archives hold the rarest, most arcane, and most powerful texts in the Deerwood. Think of it as the inner sanctum of the whole of revealed mysteries. Needless to say, you need Grimdar's permission to enter. Arismital says, that's all I wanted to ask. Nadine says, anything else? She looks eager to return to her studies. Arismital says, tell me about yourself. Nadine says, I'm an Animancer at the sanitarium. Currently I'm researching matters related to White One's legacy. Arismital asks, what's the White One's legacy? Nadine says, White One's legacy refers to the rise in hollow-born children in the Deerwood in recent years. Some have also connected it to so-called beerwicks that blow through Eirglanfath. There's hardly any reliable data on those though, so I can't really comment. Nadine sniffs. I don't much care for the term White One's legacy. It reeks of superstition, but it's too prevalent to change at this point. Personally, I'd like to see people take a more methodical approach to these matters, rather than throwing up their hands and blaming the gods. Eder says, don't think Deerwoodens would see too much fun in that. Arismital asks, are you the Animancer who's been buying relics from Immortal? Oh, I forgot about this. Nadine says, I don't know who you're talking about, but I work with theories, not rocks and potsherds. Okay, who was it that Immortal? What was it that Immortal said? Who was his contact in the Animancy? Was it Nadine? Or is it something else? I mean someone else. I have the scepter, a complete scepter. Arismital says, I'll leave you alone. Farewell. The Theorems of Andram.
Hail, traveler.
Nadine says, it's nice to see you and all, but I really need to focus on my studies. Alright? This Animancer is quiet. Why? Duty and spirit, says the Justiciar. Go about your business, I've got my own to attend. These charming windows are reinforced with iron bars and a double thickness of glass. Retrieve helix research from Moedred's laboratory. Oh, the necromancer helix from the catacombs. Sometimes we get people in here trying to make trouble for the animancers, says the sanitarium guard. I wouldn't mind being better armed, so what if it makes the clients a little nervous? I never thought I'd be taking orders from a talking statue. If you're here as a client, you'll want to be talking to an animancer, not me. I'd best be getting back to my watch. The table is set with an assortment of leaflets and booklets with titles like Practical Benefits of Animancy and Soul Adjustment for the Well-Adjusted Soul. Noble says, the head warden of the sanitarium is a statue. Quite remarkable. They say the worst of the patients are kept locked up below. Really? Everlasting life. Imagine the possibilities. I heard that someone who was treated here came out twice as smart. I wonder what all this equipment actually does. Animancy says, Animancy means progress and experimentation. Unfortunately, that makes some people uncomfortable. Animancer says, Warden, an animancer from the Republics, Bancello, has requested a visit. Head Warden Ethelmoer says, extend a formal invitation. See to it that the necessary preparations are made. Animancer says, of course. Bancello, From... from where? Violian Republics, is it? Bancello. It doesn't say Violia, but it must refer to the Violin Republics. Head Warden Ethel Moer, a well-maintained statue of a middle-aged man, presides over the room, looking down unblinking over the bustle of harried academics, pestered by the hopeful desperate. A strong warmth emanates from it that you could sense from across the room. There is a human soul stored beneath the stonework. You feel its attention turned towards you. Ethel Moer says, "It has been some time since a watcher graced these halls." His voice echoes deeply, rumbling the floor beneath you. "I am envious of your natural insights, traveler. I can only imagine how it might have helped my work in life. Now, what is it that has brought you to my sanitarium?" Okay, how does he know that I am a watcher? Does he feel it? Does he send his spies? Aris Mittal says, "I'm looking for an animancer named Moedred." Ethel Moer says, "Moedred, of course. You will find him downstairs, in the first room on the right." Aris Mittal asks, "Are you the animancer who's been buying relics from Immortal?" Ethel Moer says, "There's a large and rather notorious black market for uncatalogued Engwithan relics. I stay far away from it." Aris Mittal says, "I'm curious as to how you've come to be in your present state." Ethel Moer says, "In the statue, you mean? Well," he laughs, "I was old, and it seemed wrong to me. A lifetime spent in pursuit of discovery, only to lose it all in a death. Somewhere, someday, I would wake up in a new body, none the wiser, and pursue a different course entirely, all that experience wasted. If we are ever to unearth the principles behind our existence, it will be in spite of our condition. Of that I am quite sure." To live on as part of something I helped build seemed to me a better legacy than what nature had in store. The transfer itself was quite simple as our techniques go, and for that I am grateful. Playing with souls is far easier to accept when they are not your own. Okay, what's stopping you from using Lady Webb's method to prolong your life? Maybe Lady Webb's methods are only available for ciphers and not animancers? Or maybe Lady Webb's method is a best-kept secret, and not even the head warden Ethel Moer knows about it? Ethel Moer says, "I do miss being able to take an active role in the scholarly efforts here. Now and again one of our animancers will humor me and consult over some problem, but they are jealous breed and are too often afraid to collaborate. If you are considering it yourself, I can tell you that it isn't for the easily bored." Aris Mittal says, "Tell me about the sanitarium." Ethel Moer says, "A history lesson? This is a rare pleasure. Most come in here only concerned with cheating death in one way or another. We are an old institution, as Deerwood goes. This is our 94th year. As with many cities, the growth of Defiance Bay brought with it a host of problems. One of the worst was that those born with, shall we say, ill-favored souls came to populate its streets in droves, thus the sanitarium." Brackenberry was a natural fit. It was growing, but there was also a lot of money here back then. This place owes its survival to the curiosities of the wealthy more than anything, I think. Our founding came at a time of great suspicion in Animansi, much like today. So much progress has been lost to the mishaps of a few careless practitioners. But in time it was forgotten, as all things are. Since then we have been at the forefront of Animansi's resurgence. We have played host to many gifted researchers and pushed the boundaries of our knowledge in ways never thought possible. Some of the first safe transferences were done here, and we have pioneered work in soul purification, lineage analysis, preservation. It's really quite a list, if you'll pardon my pride. Today I can say it's exactly the same. There's been some push to shut us down. It comes from Deerwood's more excitable denizens, whose minds are more passionate than thoughtful, I'm afraid. People see this legacy, and they see it involves something they don't understand. So it's natural for them to suspect people whose understanding exceeds theirs. It looks to them like we're hiding something. We have a representative in the palace this very moment, defending the entire science of animancy. At a hearing before the Duke, absurd as it sounds, if it does not go well, it could be the end of animancy in Deerwood. I fear Ivar may be swayed by all this unrest, irrational though it may be. We shall see. Arismital asks, does anyone here know anything about awakenings? Ethelmoer says, there's an animancer on the lower floor who came all the way from Revua to study them. Take the stairs down and look for Belasege. Revua, an animancer from Revua. Arismital says you may have a member of the Leaden Key in your midst. Ethelmoer groans and the stone around him shudders. I could have done without hearing that today. Many have their intrusions been into our affairs. Of course, one can seldom be certain whether they have meddled or whether calamity has struck on its own. But a few of their less skilled infiltrators have been exposed from time to time. They are a perpetual nuisance. Once again I am reminded of how envious I am of your gifts. I suspect they would be of some use in verifying one's identity. You are at odds with the Leaden Key as well, I take it? Arismital says, they have something I need. Ethelmoer says, I hope it isn't knowledge you seek. They are seldom keen to part with it. Do you have some idea of who this person might be? Arismital says, I won't know until I've met them. Ethelmoer says, very well. In that case, I would recommend you speak first with our resident animancers. They have frequent interactions with both patients and colleagues. You'll find them up here or in their offices downstairs. You will report anything suspicious to me immediately. This is my only request. Arismital says farewell. Addendum added, two-sided.
Of course.
Audumere says, this man's soul was torn asunder by a Beowig. As you can see, the patient is unresponsive, common after soul trauma. The animancer places a small stone upon the patient's forehead. Audumere says, a portion of his soul was recovered near his body. We used this stone as a vessel for transfer. Can you hear me, Oswin? Oswin, the patient's eyes slowly open before a panicked, wild expression washes over him. Audumere says, unfortunately, the extended dissociation has permanent side effects. The patient Oswin becomes more agitated, grunting and moaning as he tugs at his bonds. So the soul returns, but it's not healthy in mind. Interesting. Noble says, everlasting life, imagine the possibilities. I wonder what all this equipment actually does.
Gods keep ye.
Audemere, a bold man with a crooked nose, gestures in demonstration over the still body of a patient before a small gathering of interested onlookers. Feeling your gaze, he pauses his discussion. Have you come to sit in? Aris Mittal asks, has anything unusual or suspicious been happening around here? Audemere shakes his head. Definitely not up here. We can't be scaring off visitors and potential clients, you know. Audmere's voice becomes quiet. Downstairs is where the more esoteric research is done. I'd check with the animancers there.
Welcome.
Audmere says, hello again, can I be of some use to you? Aris Mittal says, I'd like to know more about the sanitarium. Audmere gives an eager nod. It's the mission that attracted me here. The treatment of the disturbed. No one else seems to care about them. Here, they've worked wonders for them. I've seen people cured of insatiable hungers and uncontrollable urges. I've seen the crippled walk and the dysphoric smile, all within these walls. The thought that the Duke could put an end to it with a single order, it keeps me up nights.
Hail and well met.
Aris Mittal asks, what is it you do here? Audmere says, close as we are to the Glenfathan Wilds, we get a number of Beowig maimings every year. Survivors dealing with complications from exposure. This fellow here is a severe case. His essence is a mere whisper of what it was. I am early in my research, only beginning to understand how they work. But in time I hope to find a way to protect people from the storm's effects.
Good day to you.
Aris Mittal asks, do you know anything about awakenings? Audmere says, I'm afraid that's not my area of expertise.
Hail and well met.
Arismito says farewell. The table is set with an assortment of leaflets and booklets with titles like Practical Benefits of Animancy and Soul Adjustment for the Well-Adjusted Soul. These look like field sketches of Engwithan ruins and artifacts. Nuns. I think I remember Imatel mention this name. Nuns.
Welcome.
An elderly woman peruses the shelves with a quickness and an energy that belie her age. I'm afraid I don't practice anymore, child. Too busy with my research. Arismital asks, what do you do here? Nan says, I'm an animancer, used to venture on all kinds of underfunded and ill-fated trips out of the expedition hall when I was your age, but lately I've found research better suited to my current pace. She pats a creaking knee and laughs. Nans regards you with bright, intelligent eyes. Can I help you with something else? Arismital says, I'm investigating possible lead and key activity in the sanitarium. Seen anything suspicious? Nan says, oh, I'm afraid I'm too wrapped up in my own research to pay any mind to what else is going on around here. One of the other animancers might know something though. Arismital says, I'd like to know more about the sanitarium. Nan says, it's the physical center of animancy in Defiance Bay, founded in 2729. And before you get saucy, no, I wasn't around at the time. It was built to treat ailments of the mind and soul. Important sort of place to have in a growing city. And its construction marked the end of the animancy's slowdown that followed the Bile Ridge accident. Arismital asks, the Bile Ridge accident? Nan shakes her head. A terrible setback for the discipline. A researcher working outside the Bile Marsh shattered the souls of a dozen volunteers. Nan's voice lowers to a growl. Of course, we'll never know exactly what went wrong because the mob tore him to pieces. This mishap bears some of the blame for the slower pace of research in the 2.5 decades that followed, but it also helped concentrate practicing animancers here in Defiance Bay. Oh, an animancer ended up shattering the souls of a dozen volunteers, and in the end the animancer was torn apart by the angry mob. Interesting. Bile Marsh. Can I visit that place or no? Arismital asks, what do you know about awakenings? Nan says, not much I'm afraid, but the sanitarium attracts experts from all over. I'm sure someone here can help you out. Arismital says, Imatel sent me. He said you'd be interested in these scepter pieces we found. Nan says, that chatty old fishwife's been blabbing about me, I see. She laughs and rolls her eyes. Never trust your secrets to a man with so much salt in his beard. Anyway, let's see what you've got. Nance examines the scepter, her eyes hooded by crinkled flesh. Immortal told you true, I'll buy this. Unfortunately, a broken scepter isn't as valuable as he may have led you to believe. She steals a glance at your face, but her fingers tighten around the piece in her hands. I'll take it off you for 500. Arismital says, you seem a little too excited. What aren't you telling me? The corners of Nan's mouth twitch upward. Sharper than immortal, I see. The truth is, I could repair the scepter. She runs her fingers along one of the patterned pieces. It's broken, sure enough, but the pieces themselves are in good condition. Making it whole again is a matter of alchemy. Expensive alchemy. I've got to soak the broken ends in a fiend's blood compound to reconnect them. Never mind the embalming work to restore the enchantments. Nance eyes you. I could do it to the tune of 1800 ants. Arismital says, I'm giving you a rare opportunity to work with an Angwithan scepter. Surely you can bring the price down? Nan says, aye. Perhaps if you want to bargain and haggle with every dragon blood vendor and imp horn merchant in the city. Nance puffs her sagging cheeks. Very well, you can have the satisfaction of working an old woman to an early grave for only 1500. Arismital gives 1500 CP. 1500 it is. Nan says, I expect you'll want to watch and see that your money's put to good use. Better get comfortable then. Nan lays out an array of powders, potions, and other obscure ingredients on her desk. After what feels like hours, he returns to the main hall with you and presents the scepter. Looking at it, you never know it had been broken in the first place. Nan says, this may be the finest work I've ever done, if I may say so, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Examining a piece like that is a dream come true for someone in my field. She gazes at it wistfully. Take good care of it. What? She gave me back the scepter? Angwithan scepter added to the stash. Arismital says, farewell. Nance regards you with bright, intelligent eyes. Can I help you with something else? What your soul may be trying to tell you. Animansa says, you're welcome to browse. The spread of knowledge is a healthy thing, don't you agree? Here we study the soul and all of the ailments that can affect it. Souls inhabit all living things and on occasion inanimate objects and substances. I've heard the souls of Glenfathan elders are preserved in Adra after death, if only they'd let outsiders observe. We've been getting a lot of threats, you can bet it's the dozens behind it. Okay, I wonder, souls are supposed to be recycled. What happens when enough souls are stored in Adra, for example? Will the supply of souls run out? Or new souls just get created? I wonder. The Animancer straightens his robes and gives you a nod. Feel free to look around, you might be able to see a demonstration. One day more people will see the value in what we do here. Yarmid. This painting of a rolling forest glen has a strangely soothing effect. He was nearly set upon by brigands on the road, but your patrols intervened. Who? Azuro, prestigious visitor, living in 8 days 24 hours. Azuro. So, 8 days later, I still have time to finish my business here. Let's save this Azuro individual for later. In a corner of Moedra's lab rests a large weather trunk. It seems likely to contain something important, if only by virtue of its size. Leave the trunk alone. Unexpected results. The canine host was listless and unresponsive. but it was determined that this was simply the implanted feline soul. Yarn resulted in vigorous stimulation. Moedred, an animancer scribbles feverishly on a parchment scroll, while his free hand dances through the air, counting off unseen objects. His lips move in silent discourse. As your shadow falls over his scroll, he looks up at you with mingled perplexity and irritation.
Hail and well met.
Mordred says, "Can I help you?" He forces a polite smile. Arismital asks, "Has anything unusual been happening around here?" Mordred says, "You must be joking. This is the sanitarium. Nothing is usual down here." Mordred pauses, although now that I think of it, the patients seem more agitated lately, but they are Kaitman Azo's responsibility, not mine. Kaitman Azo? Mordred nods, taking a deep breath. Then, if there's nothing else, Arismital asks, "What are you working on?" Mordred says, "My area of focus is wicts, more specifically how to cure them." Arismital asks, "What's a wict?" Mordred says, "A hollow bone who received a transplanted animal soul during infancy. One of Animance's early efforts to cure the legacy, if not a successful one." Mordred removes his spectacles and wipes his brow. They show signs of developmental abnormalities throughout their childhood, but when they reach adolescence, they become aggressive, feral, but still victims in need of care. Arismital says, "Transplanting animal souls into children seems like an odd solution. I think I remember Eder speaks of a similar story like this." Mordred says, "We, Animancers, were trying to do something about the crisis, better than letting it swallow a generation of children." Mordred stares at a fixed point on the far wall, and despite the controversy, it only went so far because at first it seemed to work. People called it the salvation. Children that had never been responsive to any kind of stimuli suddenly seemed aware of their surroundings, of their families. Mordred takes a slow breath. The complications don't begin until puberty, but that's when the incompatibilities between body and soul take shape. Children become violent, ravenous, but we paid dearly for our mistake, I promise you. Angry mobs hunted down Animancers and burned down their homes, with them still inside, often as not. Okay. So far, I get the impression that Animancers are concentrated in Defiance Bay because they are unwanted anywhere else. Mordred says, "People took to calling it the cruel salvation, and many still loathe us for it. But we wanted to stop the legacy as much as anyone. The public begged for our help and we did the best we could. I still don't know if that absolves us." Arismital asks, "Why do you study wicts?" Mordred huffs, "What kind of question is that? Just think of all the families that could be healed, the lives that could be restored. What could be more important?" Mordred's face has reddened, and he turns away from you for a moment. He shakes his head. "Animancy has an answer here. I know it. It's simply a matter of working it out." Arismital says, "I see." Mordred says, "Good." He looks eager to return to his work. Arismital asks, Are you the Animancer who's been buying relics from Immortal? Mordred says, Who? I don't have time to barter with adventurers, if that's what this is about. Arismital says, I'm looking for an expert on awakenings. Mordred says, I hear that Vailian woman studies them. You should go talk to her instead. Okay, a Vailian and also a woman. Got it. Arismital asks, does the name Helig mean anything to you? Mordred starts. Helig, is a colleague of mine. He was primarily a necromancer, but he was involved in animancy too. He worked at the sanitarium for several years. I dare say everyone here has heard of him. Mordred clears his throat. He left his post recently. I believe he was seeking new opportunities in the violent republics. Mordred leans forward. The advances they're making in animancy really are quite remarkable. Surely you've heard? Mordred coughs again. Perhaps you haven't. Arismital asks, do you know a woman named Rowena? Mordred says, no, I don't get out of the sanitarium much. Arismital says about Helig. Mordred smooths his robes. As I said, he no longer works here. Arismital says, I've heard it differently. Mordred slides his spectacles down his nose. Just what are you insinuating? If this is your idea of a joke, I assure you, it's in a very poor taste. Arismital says, so you didn't sink a blade into his chest and dump him in the catacombs? He'll be relieved to hear it. Should I use might or should I use clever? Let's just use might. Or maybe not. What about using clever? Let's choose number 3. So you didn't sink a blade into his chest and dump him in the catacombs? He'll be relieved to hear it. Mordred fails. How could? Mordred sighs and runs a hand over his hair. Very well, yes, I killed him. I killed that beast because nobody else had the spine for it. He was a madman. Years of perverse experiments, twisting healthy souls, torturing damaged souls. And for what? He flayed the essence from Glanfathan indigents for his amusement. Mordred waves down the hall. If the public had known half of his deeds, they'd have razed this place to the ground. Ah, interesting. A different side of the story. Mordred jabs his finger on the desk. He used the sanitarium to disguise his own sick proclivities. He brought shame on all of us and put the entire discipline at risk. I regret nothing. Mordred calms down and sizes you up. Anyway, now you know the whole grisly story. Arismital asks, so you killed him to save your own reputation? Mordred snorts. The reputation of the whole discipline, rather. You realize there are groups in the city looking for an excuse to have us all hanged. Mordred shakes his head. I won't see the knowledge we've worked so hard for lost because of one man's madness. Arismital says, Helig said you stole a grimoire from him. Mordred's brow furrows. His grimoire? What's that madman been telling you? Arismital gives Mordred the key. He said you kept it in that trunk over there. Mordred takes the key with a trembling hand, his eyes darting to the trunk behind you. You've been misled. There's no grimoire here, and Helig never intended you to find one. That wretched thing has an insatiable hunger for blood. Mordred shudders. Thank you for denying him. I hope I can convince you now to return and slay him once and for all. Adesmittel says he has something I need. Mordred says, I don't know what he's promised you, but he's already lied to you about the grimoire. I don't have it. If what I've told you about that evil, deceitful man hasn't swayed you, I don't know what else to say. Mordred turns back to his papers. Trust him at your own peril. Well, first it was Dalton who told the story of Helig in a negative light. He said Helig was a necromancer. But I don't remember whether Dalton said anything about Helig committing crimes. But I remember Dalton was telling the story in a way that frames Helig as an evil individual. And now the story from Mordred also in similar breath that Helig is evil. Well, to them he is evil, but to Helig's he's researching. But yeah. Anyway, my first contract was with Dalton. I agreed to help him. So I have to side with Dalton whatever happens. But I don't believe Mordred when he says there's no grimoire in the trunk.
Hello!
Mordred looks up from his scroll. Yes? Mordred, Arismittal says, Helig's soul returned to his corpse through sinister magic. He wants revenge. Mordred says, no doubt. He spreads his hands wide. But now you understand why I killed him, why someone had to. If he sent you, I only hope I can convince you to return and slay him once and for all. Adesmittel says, I'll consider it. Mordred says, consider also the kind of man he is and the kind of things he's capable of. Don't trust him. I must return to my work. I wish you well. Mordred turns back to his papers.
Good day to you.
Adesmittel says, just looking around. Mordred says, then be quick about it and don't touch anything. The sanitarium has a lax visitor policy, but I don't. Without another word, he resumes his work. Okay, I'm going to unlock the trunk myself. Examine the trunk more closely. The lack of dust on the trunk surface and the long scratches on the tile flooring suggest that the trunk is frequently used and moved throughout the laboratory, despite its considerable size. Deep yet narrow gouges score the wood at the edges of the trunk. They look like claw marks. Huh? Claw marks? Okay. Okay. I think Helig is deceiving us. He says to acquire a grimoire that is belonging to him. But I think I know what Helig is planning. There must be some kind of creature within the trunk. He wants us to open it, so once the creature gets out, it will attack. So Helig was hoping it will attack Mordred, perhaps. If that is true, then he's lying about the grimoire. But let's see. Adesmittal has his companions here. Whatever creature Alec throws at them, I'm sure they are capable of at least have a chance of surviving. Open the trunk. Heavy lock holds the trunk shut. It's too sturdy to break and the mechanism looks too complicated to pick. You'll need to find the key. Ah, dang it, I gave the key to Moidred.
Good day to you.
Aris Mittal says, hardly brave stabbing a man in his sleep. Mordred says, brave enough for my tastes. I heard a rumor he once laid a 50-man squad to rest on his own. At least I did something.
Indeed.
This strange device seems to thrum with power.
How do you do?
Bella Sege, a woman, paces back and forth, her feet crunching on the soft red carpet. She gestures and mumbles to herself, shaking her head as she pores over pages of notes. She almost walks into you. Ekosi, here I am, looking so hard for answers in my search that I do not see the kid standing in front of me. What can I do? She says Ekosi. Was it Agosti or Palegina that said it? So this woman must be from Vailia. Aris Mittal asks, what do you do here? Bella Sege, according to my research grant, I study awakenings. Sublimating pre-awakened souls have been one of Animance's greatest successes, and I am working on a method to replicate the process on awakened souls. Bella Sege gnaws at her lip. But the truth is that I find few suitable subjects here. Whitewind's legacy has left plenty of awakened souls, but most are too broken for study. Bella Sege sighs. I fear I will return to Revoa with nothing to show for my efforts. Revoa? Is it a place in Vailia then? Aris Mittal says, I'm awakened. I've been recalling flashes of a past life. Bella Sege scratches her chin. Most interesting, but not the kind of awakening I can study, I am afraid. I need someone whose awakened soul can be triggered with predictable stimuli. Souls such as these tend to manifest as alternate personas in the host. She gives you a broad if strained smile, but I thank you for the offer. Something else you need? Aris Mittal says, you are in luck. I have a volunteer. She springs to the balls of her feet, beaming. Gelarde, who is it? Aloth's lip curled into a frown. I don't know about this. She grins more broadly still. Don't be silly. The process is perfectly harmless. All you must do is stand in that cage. Aloth says, I beg your pardon? Bella Sege says, I jest. You Idirans are so uptight. I do not even know what the thing is used for. It belonged to the last occupant of this office, I think. Now they upgrade him to a cell. Again, I jest. Bella Sege rubs her hands together, getting down to business. So I need you to sit here. She takes Aloth by the shoulders and steers him to the couch, and try to relax, but don't try too hard, then you will not be relaxing. Aloth says indeed, his eyes are humorless. Belasege says, and you must also wear this, a little cold, but the copper will help conduct your essence. The Animancer fastens thick copper bands to Aloth's forehead and wrists. As she rackets them tighter, Aloth's face twitches with suppressed irritation. Belasege says, now, I will examine your soul through my scope. Belasege reaches into her desk and produces a long chambered tube. Knobs, dials, and small toothed wheels run along the side of the device. It is fitted with Adra lenses, cut to different thicknesses and concavities. By manipulating them, I find the angles and densities that will allow me to track the anomalies in your soul. Kana says, how exciting, I've never seen this sort of thing performed. Kana peers at the device with interest. It seems suitably complicated. Adair says, does this mean we'll get to talk to Iselmir more? I like that lady. Belasege raises a finger. But first, we must find this cunning interloper. You will answer some personal questions while I make adjustments. Sagani pats Aloth's arm. Don't worry, I'm sure we won't hear any of it. Aloth squirms on the couch. Very well. Belasege holds the scope to her eye and flicks a knob. To begin, tell me something personal, something from a time before your awakening. Aloth says, there's nothing to tell. I was just a normal child living in the Sithwood. Aloth looks to you. His face is set in a frown, but the rigid edges of apprehension show through nevertheless. Arismital says, talk about your parents. As you speak to Aloth, you feel your voice like a bell in your chest. It tolls softly, luring him into the mist of his own memory. Belasege doesn't seem to notice anything, but you feel as if your words are smoothing his essence, untangling its many threads. Aloth closes his eyes. Mother is away most of the time, with the Thynes family, but I always know when she is coming home. Father's bottles accumulate like storm clouds on the horizon. His fits of temper become swifter and more violent. It still shames him knowing that her Heimneg to another man supports us better than his labors as a steward. What is Heimneg? The mother's occupation? What kind of occupation is Heimneg? Belasege says, this is good, I'm starting to see something. Continue, tell us about the time you awakened. Belasege bites her tongue as she twists one of the dials. Okay, so the narration implies that Arismital possessed a power to soothe Aloth's essence. So I'm guessing without Arismital assistance, maybe what Belasege is doing will not bear any fruit. Aloth says, I am in my 5th year of training. Mother is home. I can let my guard down a little because when she's around, he is usually only angry with her. But he has heard that I have had trouble casting missiles, that my flame shields are unstable. He is furious that I have failed, and Mother's presence reminds him that he has failed too. The first blow takes me by surprise. One moment I am sweeping the kitchen, the next I am sprawled on the ground, stupidly looking at flecks of my blood on the tile. His boots glistening with fresh polish thud across the floor. He kicks me in the stomach, and I curl up to shield my vitals, but it's pointless. Protecting one thing only leaves something else exposed. Still huddled on the ground, I retreat as fast as I can. I retreat until the vision of the kitchen and my own trembling knees is nothing but a pin prick against a field of black. Aloth's jaw locks and his eyes twitch beneath their lids. Belasege says, Madiko. Belasege furiously cranks the knobs along her scope. He's hypnotized himself with his old memory. You've got to bring him out of it. Quickly, I almost have it. Arismital squeezes Aloth's hand. You're safe. Everything's fine. Aloth's eyes snap open, but the expression you see in them isn't his. He is near safe when I hap upon him. I don't know if I can emulate the same accent Iselmir has. Okay. Belasege sucks a deep breath through her teeth. That's it. I'm seeing a shift in his essence, something spreading and congealing. Belasege glances at you over her scope. Keep talking. He seems to respond to you. Arismital asks, what brought you here? Aloth says, or Iselmir says, cracking bones and voices high in air, that warm molasses feeling that creeps down your gut when crisis is nigh. Belasege says, perfetto, we have flares of a totally distinct essence. Belasege jots shorthand notes onto the pages next to her and turns one clicking knob of her scope. Now try to get the two of them talking. Arismital says, Iselmir, tell Aloth why you have awakened. Aloth says, Fai is the one needed me, hiding in his own bone bag like a turtle in its shell. I'm sorry guys, am I doing the act? You know, they didn't say what accent Iselmir has. So, you know, you can't say that I'm doing this accent wrong or that accent right. The game does not specify from which real-life country the accent comes from. But I have my guesses. It's either Irish or Scottish, right? I'm sorry, I don't have the ability to emulate Scottish or Irish accent. It's hard. I can't even emulate English. Normal English, not normal English. I mean, I can't even emulate American English. Or British English correctly. How can I hope to emulate the harder accent like Irish and Scottish? Aloth's face twists in a fury. I never turned it over to you. Belasege says, good, yes, very good. She rests from her scribbling, only to make another adjustment to her scope. I can now see two separate patterns of essence, where he ebbs, the other flows. It's as if the awakened soul fills the spaces that he leaves empty. Belasege prompts you with a circling of her wrist, quill still in hand. Go on, Arismital says. Aloth, what's this about ceding space to Iselmir? Aloth grits his teeth painfully. I've given her nothing. She usurps me in my own body. Aloth says, Aye, and I lend him... Oh, Iselmir says, Aye, and I lend him a pair too. Ye should ask what I did that old man of his. How the last time he laid a hand on us, I break it in 3 places. Aloth's head jerks to the side. That wasn't your decision. It's never been your decision. Iselmir says, Nai was awakening, but now I'm stuck with ye. And dang if I let your ninnying drag us both through the scupper. Belasege says, Ak, very good. She lowers her scope and consults her notes. I think I've finally got something we can work with. I've tracked Iselmir's essence throughout the exchange. She had a particularly high density index during the most heated portions of their argument, and her essence seemed to localize most clearly in the lower portion of the subject's left rib cage. Huh? Subject's left rib cage? What? That's right around the spleen, which of course means that she is triggered by black bile. No doubt the subject's characteristic melancholy is to blame. What is a black bile? Aloth blinks back at you, and in the midst of his perturbation, you're not quite sure who's looking out of his eyes. That's utter horse feces. Kana says black bile, is it? They've certainly spat their share. Kana studies Aloth dubiously. It is a simpler explanation than I expected, all things considered. Belasege glares at him. Who is this him? Aloth? Or Kana? And then Belasege says, Yes, never mind my years of training. I suppose you have a better explanation? Arismital says, You're close. I think Iselmir's appearances are related to potential sources of trouble for Aloth. Belasege carefully scratches her jaw, her gaze darting between you and Aloth. I suppose that could be true. Belasege jots another note. I'll have to check this against other research. Aloth removes the copper bands. Well and good for you, but what does this mean for me? Belasege frowns at her notes, tapping her cheek with a quill and making a grand show of concentration. However, you catch her stealing a glance at you over the pages. Arismital says, It seems that Iselmir steps in when she determines that you are in danger. It's not clear yet whether this is a help or hindrance. Aloth says, From my position, I'd say it's pretty clearly a hindrance. I've got a lot to process. Regardless, thank you for your help, Arismital. Aloth does not look at Belasege. Belasege sets her notes on her desk and returns to her scope. Well, I hope this has been as useful to you as it has been to me. I finally have material worth publishing. You'll be the toast of Revoix. Pentre Aloth. Aloth's grimace melts into a crooked smile. Aye, advancing the right-wise principles of animancy. Just what you've always wanted. Oh, is this Iselmir now? As you turn to leave, you catch a darting movement out of the corner of your eye. Belasigi is humming to herself, still occupied with her scope, but Aloth is holding her notes. He's just about to tuck them into his cloak when he catches you watching. He holds a finger to his lips, his eyes wide and imploring. Please, I don't want my personal information published like this, especially not after her nonsense. Aris Mittal says, fair enough, but do it quietly. Aloth hides the papers in his cloak. Not to worry, we'll see to this on our own. Belasigi says, Sientere, but I am busy. I seem to have misplaced my notes. I'm sorry, Belasigi, but I have to side with my companion here. He wants his privacy intact. And besides... Yeah, never mind. The edges of the cage are dented and scored with claw marks. What are they doing down here?
I'll handle this. It's done.
Northward patient record Batixa the Pale Lady. Subject is female, mid-40s, awakened to a past life as a serial murderer, which now frequently emerges as the soul's dominant personality. Subject vacillates between violence and severe depression resulting from guilt of past deeds. Weak candidate for present research. Northward patient record Gram. Subject is a male, approximately early 30s. Powers of speech absent, presumably as a result of the over-fragmentation of his soul. As such, he is the ideal subject for present research. However, experimentation has caused severe pain and induced panic, and I have had to enlist the aid of the gods in transporting him for more recent procedures. Batixa and Gram. Northward patient record Edelman, the Midnight Man. Subject is male, mid-20s. Displays acute dissociation and paranoid delusional tendencies, causing anger and extreme violence. Dangers of working with the subject preclude possibility of further use in present research. Northward patient, record Ushgrim. Subject is a male, approximately 17 years of age, admitted for episodes of catatonia, followed by occasional violent outbursts. Initial analysis of soul revealed severe fragmentation and essence deficiency. Said deficiency all but eliminates the possibility of utilizing the subject in present research. I wonder, is what the Animancers doing here legal? And how did they procure these subjects? Did they kidnap them? Or the subjects already found losing their mind? Note from Azo, Ripley. I require more copper tubing for my next experiment. Do not requisition it from the sanitarium stores. I don't have the time to deal with the head warden's inevitable question. Kaidman Azo.
How do you do?
Ripley. A young Orlan woman traces her fingers along the spines of the books in front of her. Row by row, her motions quick and skittish, like a bird's. She does not notice you until you are nearly upon her. Oh my, you startle me. Are you supposed to be in here? Arismital asks, are you the Animancer who's been buying relics from Imatel? Ripley says, I'm not an Animancer, so no. But I do know that most of those relics are stolen from ruins in Eir Glanfath. Selling them is illegal. If there's nothing else, I need to get back to work. Arismital asks, what do you do here? Ripley says, I mostly help Master Azo set up and clean his equipment. I also keep his office organized, since he's too busy to do it himself. Arismital says, I'm looking for an expert on awakenings. Ripley says, me? I'm just Master Azo's assistant. But there's a visiting scholar from Revoa here, named Belasege. She claims to know about them. Arismital says, farewell.
Well met, friend.
Unlocking this will require the proper key. Heidman Azo was absent from his office, and he's evidently been running some secret experiments. I should take this up with the head warden. Whether this is connected to the Leaden Keys operations remains to be seen.
Good day to you.
Head Warden Ethel Moir says, "Have you learned anything of interest?" Aris Mittal says, "I found records that Azo may be running some questionable experiments." Ethel Moir says, "Experiments. Kaitman Azo is in charge of patient welfare now. He's not authorized to run any more experiments. I am disappointed in Kaitman. I'd hoped he would be the one to guide your inquiry." "He'll be in his office or in the patient wards. I'm granting you immediate access so you can find him. No doubt you will wish to speak to him further on this matter, and I for one am curious as to what he might have to say. Tread carefully in the wards. There are a few dangerous cases. I would ask also that you do your best not to agitate the patients. They have enough troubles as it is." "Okay, Head Warden, why not send your sanitarium guards to help beef my group? If you're saying that this place is dangerous. I mean, if you're saying there are a few dangerous cases. Or better yet, why not tell your sanitarium guards to fetch Kaitman Azo? Why does it have to be me? But fine." Investigate the patient ward. Interview Graham in the North Ward. Okay, interview Graham. Let's do this.